Well, hello. I'm live. Hi, Patty. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Jennifer. Okay, I see people are coming on. All right, today we're going to do a little bit different project. I know 2 weeks ago I did the rub-on transfers with resin, and today I'm going to do them with glass. Um, I don't know how many stained glass people are out there. I know, Melissa, you do some. You do beautiful work, so you'll be familiar with everything that I'm using. Hey, Jamie. So, this is just a little bit different take on making some little artwork pieces. Uh, Initially, I just intended them to be little things to put on my countertops or end tables or whatever, just a little bit of art that I thought was kind of cute, kind of nostalgic, kind of whimsical. And I'm using mainly a product that I saw on an ad here on Facebook, and the name of it is Topurlogy. It looks like taperology to me, but it's Topurlogy. If you look at their website, it gives you a little pronunciation of how to say it. So anyway, they've got all kinds of different rub-on transfer packages, and I bought a few of them. I've got a couple more coming that I've ordered, and that have different things in them. They have different themes. This one is mostly sea life. There are some other things in here, but there's sea life, animals, nature kind of things, and then this one is just one of many different florals. So there's lots of neat stuff. I have bought several packages, so I have a lot of them cut up uh, that I'm using different pieces for. This is one of the ones that's on with the marine life. It has zoo animals and different things. You can see where I've cut uh, different portions off to make different things. I haven't decided if or what I'll use some of these other animals for, but everybody's into different things, so you may find a use for them. Hey, Suni. So there's the florals are really pretty. They have lots of different choices, different colors. So I've kind of been playing with them. I showed some of the stuff that I've already done um, online. There's a few that I did, and I didn't have the right kind of copper foil when I made some of these. I like to use the black backed copper foil, and this was just the copper. So you can see the copper through the glass around the edges on the inside. I'm not real fond of that, but that's all I had at the time. But I've since ordered other copper, the black back foil, which I'm going to use today. And then Amazon, I found these cute little stands. They're just cheap little plastic stands, but they're cute. And you can set your little tile like this somewhere and kind of just enjoy it. So that's what I'm doing today. All right. So, and on this project, I'm using mostly beveled glass. I've got some 4-inch squares, and I also have some 3-inch squares. And then, and I use that as the top layer. You don't have to do that, but I kind of like the look of the beveled glass. And then I cut some squares of just plain, like window glass. It's a little bit thinner than this. And the reason that I like that is because it gets quite thick if you put bevel back to back, which you can do, but it's more expensive to have a bevel on the back and the front, especially when you're not putting any artwork on the back. So it just makes sense to me to just have the plain, like window glass on the back. And that also it makes a difference in the size of the copper foil tape that you need, the width. So for the one bevel and one plain glass, I'm using a 3/8 inch copper foil tape. And what I mean by the a black back is that when it's an adhesive, so when you peel it off the strip, it's black on the back side. The the plain, is just copper colored on the back side. But you tend to see this more. Um, the black kind of masks the reflection. So, hey, Mary. Okay, so anyway, uh, that's what I'm using, and I'll have a list of stuff um, on the group page later that shows you all the different things that I'm using and where you can get them. Um, and this Topurology is not the only place that you can get the rub-ons. Amazon has a lot of them. I have to say that I haven't bought any of those yet, but they look pretty similar in many ways. So the downside is that Topurology comes from China, and the orders usually take 2 to 3 weeks, I guess, to receive them. And with Amazon, you can get your stuff in like 2 days. But it all depends on what you want. Okay, so the other thing that's very important with this project is the fabric. I'm not a real versed in lots of different fabric, but I think this is linen. And if you buy the rub-on transfers from Topurology, you can also buy uh, pieces of the fabric. And I just went ahead and did that because I wasn't really familiar. But I know my girlfriend just buys it from Joanne Fabrics, and she says it's like the same thing. So I think Topurology charged $5. And it's a pretty big piece of fabric, so I didn't think it was a bad deal to just go ahead and buy it from them. But anyway, and I wrote to them and I showed them a picture of some of the different things that I've been doing that are different than what they feature on their website, and they were they were happy to see it. I guess I got a nicer discount on my next order, but that's it. But I mean, I don't know. It's just different ways to incorporate it. I'm sure other people have tons of other ideas as well. So anyway, so this stuff tears pretty easy. As soon as you give it a little snip with your scissors, you can just pull it. And I kind of pre-plan my design, so I know how much fabric I want to cut off. And I did iron this. It was a little bit wrinkly when I took it out of the little packaging because it's all kind of like folded up. But I don't think it matters one way or the other. It's just up to you if you want to do that or not. But I liked it to be a little bit pressed. So, and then you can pull these little extra strings off and make a fringe with the material as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I already did one little scene. I like to do little scenes, and that was another reason I contacted Topurology, because I asked them if they could possibly consider making some other kinds of grasses, like short grasses and tall grasses, so that you could uh, stage a little scene like this, where you could have the bunny actually sitting on some grass or having some tall reeds or something behind them as well. So they thought they were great ideas. Who knows if they'll ever do anything with it, but I thought it was worth an ask. I mean, like I said, they may not ever do anything with it. They're probably very successful in what they're doing, but it sure would be nice to have those extra little things when you want to create a little scene. So I am going to put this one under glass today and solder it for you so that you can see that. But first I will show you the application on the material. I know 2 weeks ago when I did the other demo, I was applying it on resin, like the first layer of dried resin, and this time it'll be on fabric. So it's really cool. I guess I'm easily amused. I don't know, but I enjoy finding these different things, and I hate to just do the same old thing all the time. I'm just kind of that way. I lose interest or whatever, and not lose interest, but it's kind of fun to just get sparked with something new. So, uh, oh, also Tim Holtz puts out a line of rub-ons as well. There's other manufacturers too, and I did mention on my last demo that I even found some at the dollar store, Dollar Tree, but they were very limited in what they had. So, but you can't beat the price for $1. Oh, $1.25. It's changed. So anyway, the Tim Holtz has two sheets of the same designs, and these are kind of fun to incorporate with your designs as well. So I'm going to use one of these too. Topurlogy has some other little oddity kind of rub-ons. Also, they have some that are like used postage stamps, wax seals, uh, just different kind of ephemera that you can kind of mix together. Okay, Patty says, or there's some poor designer who's tired of trying to figure out what to make, who's thrilled to have a suggestion. That could be too. You know, that could be too. So anyway, let's move on to the fabric. All right. So for the fabric, it's very simple. I'm just going to take, now I like to use the 3-inch a little bit more maybe than the 4. They're just a little smaller and I like them. And I just eyeball it just like everything else I do. And I'm just going to make a little snip here on the edge of the fabric and just rip. That's it. Oh boy. So I have a strip here, and then it has all these little frayed, well, all these little strings that you can pull off and make yourself a little bit of a fringe on the edge. That can be however long or short you want the fringe. And it can be messy, it can be neat. It's just whatever kind of look you're going for. So I'm going to do that. Pull a few on the other side because I'd kind of like my fringe to be equal on all sides, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's just the way I see it. And then I'm going to just line this up again and make another snip over here. And rip. When you see the ads for them on Facebook, once you tune into one of their ads, it will be on your feed all the time, just like all the other companies. But that's okay. I always enjoy, watching their little clips. All right, so then I've got a little square of fabric with little fringe all the way around. Okay, and you pretty much want to do this before you lay out your rub-ons, before you place your rub-ons on, just to make sure that you are within the size of the glass with your fringe, everything you want to show. I don't know if you can see that or not, because I want to have a little bit of the glass border showing, and I don't want to overextend it, because then the copper foil tape is going to cover up a little bit on the sides as well. So I just tend to make my fabric a little bit smaller. But actually, before you cut, you should consider what you're going to cut out as far as your rub-on. So you want to make sure that it's going to fit within that area of the fabric like that before you actually apply it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I'll show you how it's done. Because first we'll work with the fabric and then we'll do the soldering. Now this is soft, what they consider soft soldering. This is not the same kind of soldering for making jewelry. Well, you can make soft solder jewelry as well, but it's not the same as soldering when you're doing metalsmithing. Different animal and a different set of tools and needs. So I'm going to just set this up a little bit higher here so that you can see. You need to work on a firm surface. This little plastic drawer that I just put up here to elevate is not really that sturdy. So I started taking this little wooden cutting board to the rehab and to the hospital with my dad because I would work on his hospital bed, and I needed a solid, firm surface. So this actually worked out pretty well. This is a cutting board that I never used for food, so I thought, why not? So you kind of decide where you want to place your transfer. And let's see here. I have too many things all over the place. All right, well, I'm going to use this craft stick that comes with it, but there's also another tool that people that do stained glass use. It's essentially a burnisher. In stained glass, it's called a FID, F-I-D, and you can use that or you can use the craft stick. All right, so I've decided where I want to put this piece. I cut my transfer out, and I cut kind of close, not tremendously close, but close enough. And I'm just putting the one transfer on this piece. Now, the transfers have a white backing paper, and then the transfer, and then there's a clear film that goes over the transfer. And see, the color doesn't go on reverse. It's just a sticky backing right here. So you can't really make a double-sided piece unless, well, you could, I suppose, if you took pains to get the same exact size of the same exact image, or if you put two pieces of fabric on there, I guess, so that you didn't see the shadow of the other one. But I didn't intend for them to be really like a light catcher where you can see on both sides, but you could use it that way if you wanted to. All right, so I'm going to place the transfer on the material. And here's the thing with this. Once you lay it down on your fabric, you're committed to that spot. If you try to peel this off, you're going to pull that transfer off. Ask me how I know. So you just want to make sure that you're certain where you want that image to go. And then you take your craft stick or burnish or whatever, and you're going to rub your entire image really well on the fabric. And are you guys doing okay with the broadcast? Because as usual, I'm getting an interruption with a green screen, just for like a nanosecond, and then it seems to go back. But hopefully you guys are seeing the whole thing without difficulty. Let me know if there's a problem, although I don't know what I could do about it, but I'd like to know just in case there would be something I could do. All right, so I want to make sure that I get all of this image burnished really well. I'm just in love with these things. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, but I'll show you. Well, I did post a picture, I think last week, of some of the other fabric pieces that I did. And it's just another idea of how you could use these. This is kind of killing my arthritic index finger, but it can get done. Okay. Oh, good, Suni. Thank you. I hate that when there are problems with the transmission. Okay, so I think I did that well enough. And now I'm going to just pick a little area and pull that clear cover off. And look how pretty that is. So you can touch it. It might be just a tiny bit tacky, but it shouldn't really be. That might be only if you didn't get the rub-on placed properly, but this one is fine. But the color and everything is so pretty once you take that that clear, well, it's kind of a frosted protective layer off. Okay, this is what I was referring to. I don't know if you can see this very well on here, but I took a picture frame that I already had, and I mounted these in the picture frame. I haven't played around with any other background papers. No, you get reflection from my fluorescent lights on camera. Sorry. I may change the paper behind here to maybe something a little bit, I don't know, maybe some other color, just to give it a little more pop of color. But I may leave it like this too. I don't know. But this is one way you could use them as, if you didn't want to do the soldering and you wanted them under glass, you could just buy some small frames, and you could do that as well. So there's lots of options on how to use these things. All right. There's another little one that's awful cute too, for like a little collage piece. And then I ripped off a small, this was like a little salvage piece, that from another piece I shortened it a little bit. And I thought, well, I'll put something else on this little piece. Not sure what I'll do with it, but why not use it all up? Okay, so peel off that white backing paper. Be very careful that you don't put your fingers on that transfer itself, because you can pull it off. So just be real careful and apply that. And then, so you see this little process is quite simple, very simple actually. One of my friends was over with her granddaughters a couple of weeks ago, and I gave them a few to play with while they were here, because they were with boring adults, and they weren't going to be here very long, and I just gave them a few of these to play with, and they really enjoyed doing this. So that's a nice project to do with your kids or your grandkids too. Just make sure you get them all in there. Okay. I have a tendency to be in a hurry. I know I shouldn't be, but sometimes I'm just anxious to see what it's going to look like. Okay. Just pull it off, gently, because if you see that any of the rub-on hasn't been pressed down, you can take care of that at that moment. Now I just saw a little piece of the glue come off, just a little tiny piece, and that's the part that I was saying can be tacky sometimes if there's a little bit of glue residue or whatever from this. Also, keep yourself a little trash can handy because you will be getting all kinds of little paper pieces and threads and all that other stuff. So look how cute these are. I just love those to death. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, I kind of like the background, but then I was thinking maybe it would be nice to have like some kind of a contrasting um, color, more to bring more color in. But then again, these should really shine as your color, I guess. All right. And then I found this Lily of the Valley one that I thought was awfully pretty. And I think I want to add something from here on there. But these are so tightly applied to the page that it's kind of difficult, I think, to cut them apart without maybe cutting into something else. But it is what it is, I guess. So I'm going to cut some numbers off because actually on the Topology ad, they showed this Lily of the Valley and they had some numbers next to it. And I thought that was kind of a cool look. But like I said, I haven't gotten those yet. And I thought that was kind of neat. It's just different. I may or may not like that. I don't know. Actually, this figure, this is just kind of like the fun of it, though, is just kind of trying different things, investigating the looks, that you can get. This figure number 1, actually, I like quite a bit. That's more like a botanical, maybe, reference or something, to have that on there. Shabby chic. Yes, Tammy. I think kind of like that. I like that. So I think that's what I'm going to do on this one, is just put that figure 1 on here. There's a couple different fonts for some of these things as well. Of course, these are going to be backwards for you, but it'd be nice if you could make your own. And maybe you can, that's not anything I've really investigated, but maybe you can make your own rub-ons. So that would be pretty neat. All right, so I'm going to put this one on and then I'll go into the soldering business, because once you've seen this placed a couple of times, you should be able to get the gist of that. Okay. So have that over. This one will go on a 4-inch tile or bevel glass. You could call them tiles too, I suppose. My husband used to do stained glass many years ago, shortly after we were first married, and we've been married 50 years, so that's a long time ago that he made them. And I really enjoyed him doing that, and I keep telling him he should get back into it, but he's found other things to occupy himself. His woodworking is his major love right now, so as long as he's happy doing something. I think everybody should have some form of creative outlet, and you just never know what you're going to like. Years ago, before I started doing any type of jewelry work, I didn't think I had any talent artistically for anything. I'd never really been interested in it when I was younger. And although I've always been crafty, I've always done little things, ceramics, and I don't know, just a bunch of different things through the years until I found jewelry. And then it was like, even though I'm not a big jewelry person myself, I really enjoy the process of making it. So, but this is big fun to me too. All right, let's see if I got that on well enough. Yes, indeed. All right. And now I'm going to put that little figure 1. Now these I think are a little bit different, the Tim Holtz ones. I could be wrong. Peel. This, yeah, this feels a little bit different. Eh, this one doesn't have that super sticky backing feel. So this is the first time I'm using one of these, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll work. Otherwise, I'm going to have to probably pick something else to cover over that. Maybe. We'll see. No, that's not sticking to the fabric. Well, I guess better to find that out before you guys head out and buy all this stuff. I may just have to wait till I get the topology order and get my little thing that I want. Of course, I didn't read the instructions on here. They may be different. It would help. No, see, that's not coming off at all. Oh, no, it did. It broke off a little bit. I guess maybe I should read the instructions before I demonstrate. I just assumed that it would be the same technique since they're rub-ons. I guess not all rub-ons are created equal, but they sure should be. And it comes with a craft stick too, so where's the instructions? There are no instructions. It just says pressure-sensitive transfers that can be applied to various surfaces. I guess I'd have to look it up on the website and see. All right, well, that didn't work out. But what I'm going to do, since I've got the other little thing, it was a good idea, but I'm going to wait till I get the other order in and then put that sticker that I originally wanted to put on there. Kim, I sold a few of them last weekend. So that was good. There seemed to be interest in them, so I thought, yeah, that's good. I think these would make really nice gifts too, as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to put this one on the back burner and wait for that other. Topology is the brand, Kim. It is, where's my thing? I don't know where I put it. Oh, here they are. Oh, well, it doesn't say that on here. But I will have the links to where, to their website, and you can see all their different products. They have a ton of different kind of, like if you do a lot of scrapbooking or journaling, that sort of thing, they have a ton of different things that you can use. So check that out if that kind of piques your interest. All right, and then I'm not going to do this one here, but I already have this one figured out. This is how I want to do this one. And for this one, I just cut some rectangular pieces of glass that I will sandwich. This is not a bevel. This is just regular window glass. And then I'll solder that all together. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Hope I didn't skip anybody. Okay. All right. So when it comes time to, when you have your piece done, which, let's see, I have this one here. I'm going to do the rabbit, and I'm going to do the whatever flowers these are. They kind of look like poppies, but I don't know if they are or not. All right, poppy-esque. Maybe I'll do that one first, the smaller one. So when it comes to doing this part, I want to make sure that my glass is really clean on the inside. It doesn't matter how, if your glass is dirty on the outside, because you're going to get it really dirty when you put all the flux and stuff on it. So I'm going to clean that piece of glass on the inside. Just to get any finger marks or whatever, because that always happens with glass. So I'm just going to clean that inside, make sure there's no schmutz on there. And then a small piece. Deborah, the rectangular one, I just put it on an easel, a small easel, for a little display. But you could solder loops on the end if you wanted to hang it, like in the two top corners. You could solder loops, but this is only held together with copper foil tape that's soldered, and a little bit of scratchy on this glass. I don't like that. This one looks better. I guess I got that scratched up a little bit. That one piece of glass. Yeah, the loops are fine. I just find that these pieces, when you're using the bevels on them, they're kind of heavy. And since I'm just using copper foil tape to solder them together and not putting like a piece of what they call lead came, it's like a lead frame kind of that you cut out, to fit your edges of your glass. Since I'm not using any of that, I'm afraid that hanging them over time might make it pull away. I don't know. That's just an idea that I have in my mind. It may be unfounded. All right. So I'm going to put this on the glass and try to make sure that I'm centered properly, which is kind of a crapshoot. You have to futz around with it a little bit, but it's worth it, because if you find out that you've put it in just a little bit crooked and then you've soldered it already, and you're going to be unhappy if it's not in there just the way you wanted it to be. So now I'm going to put my other piece of glass on the back. So I have my little glass sandwich. Now maybe I want to move this up a little bit. So I'm second guessing myself. It's the anal part of me. Okay. All right. So I have my two pieces of glass together. And hopefully you'll be able to see just what it is I'm doing. I'm going to take the tape and roll a little bit of it out. And I always kind of start my tape at the middle of the top. That's just something I got used to doing when I was doing the little soldered pendants. And that way the seam from the copper tape would be covered when you put the jump ring on there, when you soldered the jump ring. So that was always a good place to start. But with this, you have to, well, with any of the glass projects like this, you want to try to make sure to get pretty equal amounts of tape on either side of the glass. You don't want too much on one side and very skimpy on the other side. So it takes a little bit of figuring out. I'm just rolling this tape around the outer edges of the glass. This particular tape, this is a new brand to me, so it seems rather thin, thinner than what I'm used to. But it was the only 3/8 inch tape that I could find. I've got them in like every other size, but 3/8 seemed to be the best fit overhang. I didn't want too much or too little. So the 3/8 seemed to be just right for this project. All right, so I'm checking to make sure that I've got pretty much equal foil on each side of the glass. Then I'm going to just where the seam is going to be, or wherever, I want the least amount of tape over that seam. I want it to just overlap, but not by too much. And the reason I say that is because I have tried, well, I've not maybe tried, but I have had a little bit too much foil overlapped. And then when I go to apply the jump ring, if I don't get the jump ring on straight on the first try and I have to take it off and put it back on, it seems like I pull, I don't know, that extra excess of foil kind of gets messed up. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Okay, so now I've got the tape all the way around, and now I'm going to just press with my fingers to bring that foil down on all four sides, front and back. And then when I get to the corner, I kind of tuck it in one corner and let the other corner kind of go over it. It's not necessarily the neatest way to do it, but it seems to be pretty secure. Once the solder is over it, you're not going to see that anyway. But you want to make sure that you've got enough overhang on both sides of the glass because you want to make a good seal. If you have a lot on one side and very little on the other side, once you put your flux on here, it can seep inside between the two pieces of glass. We don't want that. because once that happens, you have to take everything apart and clean it and dry it, because it's not going to just like go away. It's going to be kind of ocky. All right, so I'm going to turn this over, do this same thing on the back side. Now, for whatever reason, I can see that my foil isn't lined up right here. It looks like it's been pushed away from the edge. Let me see if I can push that down. Yeah. Okay, well, it won't be great, but it'll be all right. All right, so do that the same. You're pushing all the edges down, folding over the corners, and then I'm going to find that fid wherever I put it. I suppose I could do this with a popsicle stick as well, but I like the fid. Why? Oh, here it is. It's like I have this stuff all there, all here in front of me, and then I can't find it. All right, so now I'm going to take oh, you booger. Okay, get this back again, just for the firm surface. And I'm going to burnish all of this copper foil tape in the corners, all in the front. I'm going to do the top surface, all the edges, all the outer edges. You're going to foil or burnish all of that as well. Okay. And then do this on the back side as well. Just make sure you get it all nice and burnished. Now I'm using a lead-free solder. Typically in stained glass, at least years ago, there was no such thing as lead-free. But the lead-free behaves a little bit differently than the solder that has the lead in it. So I would say absolutely, if you're wearing this on your skin, well, you're not wearing this, but if you're wearing soft solder jewelry on your skin, to make sure absolutely 100% that you're using the lead-free. But if you're just doing a piece that's going to hang or sit by itself and not really get physical contact and stuff, then you certainly could still use the other. But even so, I'm still using lead-free on this. Just makes me feel a little bit better. But you can do a lot more decorative work when you're using the leaded solder. It seems to flow a little bit nicer. You can make little decorations, decorative balls and things, and they seem to work better. At least for me, that's been my experience than with the lead-free. But this is still good. Yeah, Jamie, they would make a nice Mother's Day gift too. So that'd be fun. Okay, so this one is foiled, and the copper color is really pretty just as it is, but really it's not a great permanent finishing. The soldered over it looks a lot better. Okay, so this one is ready to be soldered. I think I will go ahead and tape the other one, and then we'll solder both pieces, hopefully. Things can always change. So, at least in my world, that's how they do. All right, so let me clean this piece. And I'm just using like a Windex, you know, that kind of window spray cleaner, glass cleaner to clean the bevels. I had bought a lot of these bevels years ago when I still had my shop because my friend Rhonda did a class. We made these little nightlight houses, and they were, we used like two bevels for one side, and then, well, they had bevels on all the sides, I guess, but it was like a 3-inch and then a triangle. They were really cute little houses, and then we put like a little nightlight in it, and she did that class. It was great. And she put the houses had like scrapbooking paper between the walls, so it was colorful. They were pretty. Like I said, the outside of the glass, don't even worry about that getting dirty. Just to be sure that you don't have any schmutz in between. I have a bunny. I think I showed it last time. That was on the Topology package of animals. And that was the other thing I asked is certain animals are more desirable as far as the whimsy look. And this bunny in a blue waistcoat was so cute, and I said, "Can you put more bunnies like that? Uh, they're just darling." So, but she made no commitments to anything. But that's okay. She at least heard me. All right, I was heard. Okay, all right. That's probably as good as I'm going to get on that. Yeah, I see these as making really, really cute gifts. And I bought on Amazon, I bought the easels. Um, I bought 3 and 4-inch um, that I just gave them when they bought the piece. You know, then they got their little easel with. They were very inexpensive ones, but for this size, you'd probably want a 5 or a 6-inch. Um, well, I'd say 5 is probably plenty good. Okay, this is the bunny. I found the bunny. I'm in love with this guy. And they didn't have enough mushrooms either. I told them more mushrooms, more bunnies and waistcoats. Um, I think that those are just adorable. All right, so that's, I didn't even bring him to the park because I was keeping him. And then here's a little one that you could wear as a pendant if you wanted that, or, you know, hang it somewhere. This one I was able to find the same leaf, and I was able to uh, do that on the reverse side as well. So actually, as like a little, well, it's not really a light catcher, but if you wanted to hang this, you know, from a chain or something, and it turns around, then at least you've got the image on both sides, which I like. This is just a small 2-inch uh, flat window glass. So, all right. All right. So, yeah, that bunny's adorable. I love him. All right. So, I'm going to get another piece of foil and do this just for the sake of you guys seeing me do it again. Although you can always watch this on replay and work along with me if you wanted to do that. So always getting started is a little awkward. because it sticks and you have to keep the glass sandwiched together. And I just leave, you could cut your foil instead of working with the whole spool, but I just leave it on the spool and roll it around. You could get a little bit wider tape if you wanted than this. I think 5/16 would be the next size that you could choose. But like I said, I'll put some references on the group page later, and at least it can get you to the sites to look at the stuff, and then if it's something you want to do. It's like everything else on all these different things that I show you. There's always different tools in materials, supplies, all that stuff, different than what you already have. So that's just like the law. You have to spend more money to do some of these different things. It's just the way it is. If you enjoy doing that sort of thing. All right, so I've overlapped my seam there a little bit, and I'm pushing down the tape. Now, say I didn't line it up right, you could, before you get it all mushed down, if it's not centered right, you can peel the tape off and re-center it, but sometimes that's hard to do, and you might be better off just ripping it off and starting new all over again. All right. So I think right now I'm going to plug my soldering iron in. It usually doesn't take long at all to get it heated up, but I think since I'm thinking about it, it'd probably be a good idea to just get this heated. The soldering iron that I have just plugs in. I don't have it on a rheostat or anything, so it's either plugged in and on. There's no on-off switch, so it's either on or it's off. And you want to make sure that you don't have anything flammable nearby wherever you have your soldering iron located, and I'll show you all that in a little bit. And I forgot to wet my sponge, so I think I have to get a little bit out of my drinking glass. See if that works. Well, that's kind of dumb, Sue. All right. I'll explain all that stuff as I go. All right, so I'm going to make sure that all this foil is placed on here nice and securely. I can see I have a little bit more on one side than the other. I can smell my soldering iron is heating up. I also have a little fume trap that I use with my soldering iron, and you should always have an exhaust fan on or a window open and a fan blowing through your room so that you keep all those all the smoke and the vapors, whatever, keep that away from you. Okay, so I'm going to burnish this all in. Do the front edges. And, if you're working with the thinner glass, not the bevel, but the thinner glass, you have to be careful with your pressure from your hands on here because you can crack the glass. So, I mean, it takes a lot to do that, but it can happen. So I'm just making you aware that that can happen. Bevels are thick glass. They can take a lot more pressure. Okay. All right. So he's all framed in. Okay. Now for the messy part. I'm gonna have an avalanche over here pretty soon. All right, so I can put my foil tape, and you should probably, if you get into this and do it, you should put your foil tape like in a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag or something, just to keep the air off of it. It will oxidize over time. You can still use it, but it keeps it not a nicer looking. And then usually what I'll do on the inside if I'm working with multiples is I'll mark it in here that this is the 3/8 inch size if it gets away from the original packaging, which I don't usually keep. All right, so for this part of the deal, I am going to be using a ceramic tile, just any old ceramic tile. You can get them from the hardware store. The singles that are just left in a box. Actually, you probably want a little bit bigger working surface than this, but I wasn't thinking everything out quite right when I set this up, and I don't want to get up and go get a different one. All right, so I want to get all my junk out of the way that could get messy. I have Suni, this is called a FID, but I think any burnisher, even a popsicle stick, craft stick, should work okay. You just have to be careful not to get too aggressive and tear it, but that should work just as well, really. You don't have to go spend a lot of money on something that maybe you'll use just a few times and then not have any use for it. But by all means, if you want one, you certainly can get one. There's also a block to clean your soldering iron with. It's called a Sal ammoniac block. If you do a lot of soldering, your solder tip will get messy, gets crusty, and you can clean the tip off relatively easily with this. I also have a flux brush. The flux that I'm talking about is not the same flux that you use in metalsmithing. Okay, that's a totally different flux. This is this particular brand is Classic 100 Gel Flux. It's a gel. They also have them that are just liquid, but it doesn't really matter. But the gel just is not as quite as runny as the liquid. Okay. No, the it's like nylon. This is kind of grody looking because I've had it for like forever. It's nylon. It's got like a little bit of a beveled edge on each side. So that's all it is, but it's just a piece of nylon. Okay. Hey, Deb. Glad you could make it. Okay, so here's the soldering iron. I'm going to move the camera a little bit so you can see the soldering iron. And typically you should have things placed where it's convenient for you. Like if you're right-handed, you should have your soldering iron on your right side. And of course, I am really pressed for space where I'm working right here, so I'm going to try to move this around so I can get it on my right side. Oh, I see my screen was frozen there. Okay, let's do this. Put this on the right side of me. This is a Weller 100 soldering iron. It's my soldering iron of choice, but there are lots of other ones out there that are comparable. This has an internal thermostat in it, and it's the one I learned with, so it's the one that I continue to use. All right, let's see if I can get all this junk in the frame. When your soldering iron gets dirty, it gets like kind of black and crusty, whatever, and the solder won't flow, it won't stick to it, and you need to have your soldering iron what they call tinned, Tinned. It needs to have a layer of solder on there. The soldering iron needs to be clean to accept the solder. So, hey, Suzanne. Okay, so this Salomoniac block has been around for like eons, and it's, it's broken off a piece. It doesn't matter. It looks grody as hell, but it still works. So to clean it, I'm going to turn my fume trap on. I get ahead of myself here sometimes. As you guys know, if you know me, all right, get my fume trap turned on. That'll be a little bit noisy. Hopefully that won't interfere. Okay, so if you're trying to clean your soldering iron tip, this is what you would do, is like to clean that crap off of there. And then you can take a little tiny bit of solder and rub that in as well. And that way, the soldering iron will stick. The solder will stick to the iron. Okay? So you have to do that periodically. You also need a little piece of wet sponge to wipe the excess solder off. It needs to be wet. Okay, so now that soldering iron is tinned and clean. Okay. All right. So, and here is my lead-free solder. This comes in a 1 pound spool. Sometimes you can get a half a pound, but usually for the money, you're better off getting a whole pound. And it's not cheap, just like everything else, but it will last you a good long while. So you have to kind of look at it that way. Like you can make a lot of things, with your initial investment. All right, so now I have an old Rode flux brush, and I'm going to pour a little bit of flux in a small, like a little medicine cup kind of thing, which I don't have right here, so I'm putting it in the cap, but really that's a no-no because you can contaminate your flux, but I really haven't had any issue with that. So I've got the flux on my brush, and I'm just going to swipe all the copper areas with the flux, front, back, sides, every area of the copper foil needs to be have a layer of flux on it. And it doesn't matter, it won't hurt the glass. Like I said before, the glass is going to get all yucky, but then it's going to be cleanable. So, if you don't have flux, your solder won't stick. It's the same principle as in metalsmith. That's like the conductor between the copper tape and the solder. So gotta have all of that on there. And this is why having a good seal is important, because not to have any edges of the copper foil, where the flux to get between the two glass panels. You want to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so put my piece down on the tile, put my flux off to the side. I've got my solder here that I'm just going to clamp the solder with my third hand, but it's not really necessary, but I don't want my solder moving around. So I just kind of clamp my third hand on there. And then we're ready to roll. Can you guys see okay? I'm try to bring this in just a little bit closer. And you want to have a pair of tweezers in your hand because you don't want to be picking up the piece and getting hot, getting burned. So right now you can do that. I can hold it right now, but once I'm working with this a little while, it's going to get warm, and then I'm going to use the tweezers to move it around. So I'm going to grab a little bit of solder off of the wire and put it on top of the copper tape, and I'm going to swipe it along the outer edge. Move this over. And if it seems like the solder isn't flowing too well, you can always add a little more flux. And that usually takes care of that problem. Just want to lay a first layer down all the way around first. Okay, so I've got it on the outside edges all the way around. I'm going to lay it flat and do the front. Put a little more flux on here. Now, that is the initial coat. Well, that is the initial coat that I'm working on right now. You could also wear a glove if you wanted to do that. One that would provide a little bit of heat proofing for your fingers if you wanted to do that as well. I'm going to just nudge this over. Putting the flux on with my left hand. It's very weird because I'm not left-handed. It's funny how you favor one hand over the other, and you get so used to it that your other hand is virtually useless, except for holding things. So the glass is moving around, you can just kind of hold on to it with your tweezers too. Get that first layer. It's just like magic when you see the solder flow. Okay. All right, so I've got that initial coat all the way around. don't like the tweezers I grabbed. Cross locks. I really don't want those, but that's what I have. All right, so now I'm going to put a little nicer edge on the glass on the outer edge. And this is where part of the difference between leaded solder and lead-free solder acts. With the leaded solder, I can get a nice bead of glass all the way around. This behaves a little differently. So how I do this is I don't want to glide at this point. I want it to be a nice even border around the glass. So what I'll do is kind of press, what I call a press and lift, but I'm not really pressing. I'm just kind of tapping it and applying sort of like a solder border. If I would swipe this this solder, it would just run off the edge. It would form like a big drip mark, which is really not very appealing. Not what you want. And I kind of go over it a couple of times to make sure that it's level. And then it kind of hazes over almost instantly. And then that way you know that you can turn it without anything dripping. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to put more flux up here and do the same thing again on this side. I think you should be able to see the difference in the texture of how the initial coat looks versus the final. And I'm not going to put that much. You're not going to be able to build up a real thick border on this. It will only hold so much. And also you want to be sure that you don't leave little marks where you pressed and lifted all the way across. You want it to be as smooth as possible. And there again, that's where the extra flux will help get rid of those marks. Just take your time and go across it, up and down, not side to side. Hazed over, so now I'm going to go do this side. Just trying to get enough solder laid. And also, I don't know if you can see this, but the flux will get kind of crispy and leave little burned specks, burned looking specks on the solder. Not to worry about that. That'll all come off. And the other thing with the lead-free solder, as opposed to the leaded solder, is you get what I call these little haze marks on the copper. I mean, not on the copper, on the foil. No, on the solder. Duh. And I don't know why that happens, but it seems like it's just typical for the lead free. So if I get those little white haze marks, I'll just take some extra fine, the 4-0 steel wool, and run that across and remove those little white moles. It just happens. I'm no expert on any of this, but I know that that happens, and the cause is from being unleaded solder. This was my first, doing pendants. I called it pendants under glass. Was the first class that I taught at Bead and Button in Milwaukee. I think it was like maybe 2010 or 11. That was my first teaching gig over there, and I taught that a lot. So I've got the little frame things pretty down pat. Now I don't go over the front and the back of the solder because I cannot seem to get a little buildup, like a bead of solder around the front and the back. I don't know why. It just seems to be problematic with the unleaded solder. Now I do see a few areas of little bumpy lumps. I don't like that, so I want to just run a little bit of heat over that. Hopefully it won't affect the sides, but it probably will. Okay. All right. So I think I'm not going to solder the other one in front of you guys, but I'll finish this one to completion here because I don't like to run over more than an hour and a half with these broadcasts. So if I do the other one, I'm going to run way over, but you can always replay this and see how I did the steps again. All right, so now I'm going to take some flux remover. This is CJ's flux remover, and it is worth every penny that you spend on it to get all this crusty, crispy stuff off of your glass. It really helps to get all this stuff off with ease. You might need to use like your thumbnail or something to help push off some of those little bits, but mostly it comes out pretty good. And there is a definite difference between using the black backed copper foil versus the copper color. I really noticed the copper through the glass when you're looking at it closely. And this kind of prevents that, kind of deflects any well, you just don't see the copper color through. This is not the best soldering job. I would probably need to spend a little more time on this and kind of rework some of the lumpiest areas, but hopefully you will understand what I've done through this demo. Also, I'm going to clean this yacht off of here. It's a sticky, tacky kind of a thing, job, whatever. The flux will not hurt your skin or flux remover, but I would not keep it on any longer than it needed to be. I can't work with gloves when I do this project, but you might feel that you want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to turn that thing off. And yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to wear gloves, that's fine. If you didn't, that's fine too. So just wash your hands after you play around with this. Then I'm going to take some window cleaner. Yes, I'll do that. I know it's backwards though, but it's CJ's Flux Remover. If you have a stained glass shop in your area, you should be able to find those products, or I looked it up on Amazon earlier and they do carry them. So you can always get your supplies, or most of your supplies. They also even carry some bevels. There's a lot of people that live in areas that they can't get those kinds of things easily available. So Amazon generally has stuff. You may pay a little bit more for it. I'm not sure. Some things, it's like anything. You have to shop around a little bit. But so that's the finished project. Like I said, it's not the best soldering job, but I didn't want to spend the time fussing around with it. I still can rework this. Just because I'm done with this at this point doesn't mean that I can't heat this up again and redo it. You most certainly can, and I will, because I'm not happy with this edge over here. But it's just another way to play. So I think they're lots of fun. I think these would make great little gifts. Hold it up closer. Then you can see what a shoddy job I did. But honestly, I've seen a lot of people's work on the internet, different places that do a lot of soft soldering, and some of it is super messy. But I guess it's just a matter of what you like. I don't know if it's lack of skill, or if it's just that that's a look that somebody likes. I can't really tell you. All I know is what I like, and I kind of try to pass that along to you, and then you can decide what you want to do with the information I give you. So yeah, this one will be, I'll solder that next, but not right now. So, but yeah, if you wanted to put this on the back burner for a long time from now and say, I really didn't like the way I soldered it, you can always reflux it and reheat it again, and it's fine. I've done that many times with pendants that I've made that maybe have tarnished and I didn't feel like polishing them or whatever. I know that sounds really stupid, but you could just reheat it, takes all the tarnish off again, and you know that's doable. Now, if I wanted to, I could solder a loop here, but like I said, that wasn't really my purpose for making these. This was meant, in my opinion, to sit on a little easel. And I bought, let's see here, I bought the 3-inch little plastic easels and the 4-inch. And the 3-inch, to me, are perfect for the 3-inch bevel tile. So, but they're plastic. They're not, you might be able to find them in metal somewhere, but honestly, my goal was to find them in something clear so that you didn't, like a dark frame or dark easel would detract from that, or you would see it through the picture. So that was something I wanted to share that with you as well. Sunni's asking if you could use this technique on a gemstone using sterling silver as a bail. You can definitely wrap just about anything in copper foil. You can wrap stones, rocks, Scrabble tiles, not marbles, but maybe those gems that, the flat, whatever you call them, they're like flat glass pebbles, like little glass pebbles. You can wrap those. You can hang a jump ring on them. You could, I would always probably put a jump ring as my bail for this type of thing. I don't think I would mess around with anything else. This is not sterling silver. solder. This is like a pewter solder. You can get a product called Silver Gleam that has a percentage of silver of sterling, I guess, in the solder. It looks even nicer. It looks shinier, more like silver. It's not solid, of course, but it's also going to cost you twice as much as this solder. So it really, it all depends on what you want or what you expect out of it. But yeah, when I first learned how to do this, I was wrapping all kinds of stuff. Dominoes. You can put, different kind of clip arts inside of different things. I did when I taught at one of the Glass Expo in Vegas many years ago, and I made these little collages with two flat pieces of glass, and then then I collaged, glued in a bunch of different little things, and then put another piece of glass on top, and then a wider copper foil tape around there. And that was kind of fun. But, it's like anything I do, it's like I do it for a while and then I move on to something else. And then maybe sometimes I'll go back to that again, and then move on. But that's just how my mind works. That way, I'm not bored. I always feel like revisiting something is kind of like almost learning something new again. So that's kind of fun for me. So, yeah, I will put the resources that I can on the group page in just a little bit, and I have a handout that you can print up if you want to, and you can see some closer up shots. The printout is not as thorough as watching it, to visually seeing the process, but I've got the different process shots on here, and then, like I said, I'll put the links up for the other projects or products. Yes, Suzanne, anything is better than housework. Anything. I'm just not one of those people. The house is relatively neat, but I wouldn't say that it's, all that clean. So that's okay. You only live once. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm not sure what I'll do next time, but I have a few things, that I'm thinking about and in the works. And I guess I shall see you in the group. So if you do any of this stuff, please post it. I always like to see what you guys do. And thanks for joining me. I always enjoy having you with me when I do these things. So take care. See you later. Bye.